Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at 2 Extreme that was released on the PlayStation in 1996, and this is actually a direct sequel to ESPN Extreme Games that was released on the console earlier the previous year.
Testing.
Now with this being the second game in the series, it also doesn't have the ESPN license tied to it, so it's just pretty much gone off on its own tangent. And the first game was actually really good, even if it was quite difficult. It offered a lot of kind of unique features. If you've ever played the original Road Rash on the PlayStation, or even on the likes of the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, it has a similar style and vibe to the Road Rash games of the early days gone by, which was actually pretty cool, and that was one thing I enjoyed about it. Again, it's the same type of concept as with the first game. You're going around different types of tracks and terrain on different types of extreme, kind of using extreme sports methods. You'd be on like roller skates, snowboards, skateboards, mountain bikes, etc. And you're racing against other opponents on the track, so you're actually having to not only defeat them and compete against them, but you're also trying to, say, knock them off as well, and they're trying to do the same to you. Now, graphically, this game is actually an improvement on the first game. I remember like reading it back in magazines back in the day, but also it was criticised to some degree because it was a difficult game to play. Now the original game, I'll admit, was difficult as well. I actually have done a couple of previous videos on this, and I've also done another video when I first set up this channel showcasing some of the first games I ever played on the PlayStation, and I played a demo with the original ESPN Extreme Games on it, so you can check that out. I'll leave a link in the description so you can have a look at that, and you can see the similarities between the two. Now, from what I have played of this here, it is actually an enjoyable game. It is very similar, plays very similar to the first one. The controls are a bit more refined, but I will admit from playing it, it is a little bit more fiddly. The controls just seem a bit more twitchy. But I suppose, with it being a sequel, everything they tried to improve on the whole aspect of it. It is enjoyable, but the one thing I found, even when I put it on the lower difficulties, the AI difficulty is ramped up like crazy, even on the lowest possible difficulty, because as soon as they get ahead, they are so far gone that you will never ever catch them. Unlike with the original game, you'll always still be able to catch up with a few stragglers at the back of the pack, and you'll be able to knock them off their perch so that you can literally gain a bit of momentum. But this one here, it's non-existent. You're pretty much just on your own for the entirety of the race, and I found that pretty much the whole time when I was actually playing through all the courses and all the different kind of elements, like with snowboarding and so forth. Now, I did enjoy it because I remember when I played the original one, like I said back in the day, I do enjoy these type of games, even though they are quirky. They're probably not as fluid to play as some games today, but that's with the likes of the PlayStation, that was the one thing that I loved about it back in those days, that you don't really see too much of today. Even though like games that you do see in modern consoles, they are experimenting and they're trying different things, but they just don't capture the same element. They don't try the different types of ideas that they really tried with these here consoles back in the day. These here PlayStation and like the Sega Saturn, the 32-bit era of consoles, they really were trying different things, and I find that the games in that era definitely stand out a lot more compared to modern games. I will admit myself, and don't get me wrong, I do love modern games. Like, I have modern consoles, I have a PlayStation 4 and I have other consoles, but I find that the games on them aren't as memorable. I find that once I've played a handful of games on it, and soon I'll finish that and on to the next. Yes, I enjoy the experience of the game, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression on me like say the original PlayStation did. Even games like this here that wouldn't have been as easy to play and wouldn't have been as good, I still found that I enjoyed them a lot more, and they kind of stuck in my mind a lot more as the years went on. And I do find with a lot of these games, I still do go back to play them every so often. That's how influential the PlayStation console was, and in my opinion still is. Even people that are new to the concept of the original PlayStation, if you're into your games at all, I definitely recommend that you try a lot of these games out. Now, I know that these type of games may not be for everybody, I get that, but there's definitely something unique here. There really is, and even if one person doesn't like it, that's not to say that the next person playing it will think the same. Even the not so good games I find on the PlayStation always offered something that was just different from everything else, that really stood out. They always tried to experiment, and even considering when you think of the limitations of the hardware and the software back then, what they were actually able to achieve was actually quite incredible. And it really does show what was actually possible, and it does give you a clear insight as to what developers were thinking back in those days. Now, I know the likes of this type of game may not be for everybody. It definitely is an acquired taste, and it would attract a certain type of audience, but it's still relatively good fun. If you're into these type of games, it's definitely worthwhile trying it and experiencing it. Because now with modern consoles, the internet, now is the perfect time to literally try out all these old games, and there's so many avenues in which you can do so to actually play them. Like, you actually have the likes of emulators now where you can play the games that you wanted to play. You have the PlayStation Classic, where you can adapt it to play on your big smart TV, or like 42-inch or whatever size TV that you actually have sitting around the house, and you can play a lot of these games with next to no effort, which is fantastic. And it is a great way for not only for fans like myself to re-experience a lot of these games, but it also opens up the doors for other people that may never have experienced the PlayStation back in the day, and it'll show them why the console was such a good example of just gaming in general. So even going back to this here, like when I was playing through it, it is, I will admit, a bit fiddly. I remember trying to have a few goes of it, and I went and jumped onto the likes of snowboarding. I will admit, when you kind of look at it, it's not really realistic, because there's no way that people snowboarding would be able to actually race like that. They'd have to be going downhill to really kind of gain any sort of momentum. But that was just the kind of quirky features of these type of games back in the day. They always tried something different, even if it didn't look realistic. But it was an arcadey style game, so they were always trying something new. So it does add to the charm of these old type of games. And now with the fact is with modern technology, and say like with the emulators, even likes of running on like consoles and stuff, you can play a lot of these games, and you can actually play them with the highest quality of style of graphics as well, so they actually look really, really good. So they definitely hold their own. Now, not all the games will stand the test of time, granted, but they're still worth playing. They're still worth having a go. If you have a good setup, and at least that you can set it up that you can play with a controller, you're definitely good to go. You'll definitely get a lot of fun out of a lot of these games. But I will admit, now playing this here, I found this equally just as difficult playing this here as I did when I was actually on the skateboard. Because again, the controls are quite twitchy. Even though the graphics are better, I will admit, compared to the first game, I actually did enjoy the first game that little bit more. So I did, because I remember like saying I used to play that demo and explain that in the video I mentioned. Again, you can check out the link in the description to it. And I just had so much fun playing that demo. Played it for ages, say, with my friend when I was down in this house, when I got to play the PlayStation for the first opportunity. And it was a fantastic experience, and that was one of the games, actually, I have to admit, actually stood out, because I actually had a lot of good fun with that game. Now this game here is equally, if I admit it, it's just as good in a lot of ways, but it just didn't capture my imagination. Yeah, it looks better, it is faster, but just the original game for some reason just had a unique kind of concept to it, and it just definitely stood out a lot more. But then again, maybe it had a lot to do with the fact is that that game was one of the first games I played on the PlayStation. So it sometimes when you play something for the first time, it really does kind of stand in your mind a lot more compared to other games that you play. So it could be that also, but it's still a worthwhile and enjoyable experience. So if you haven't played this here, I definitely recommend, if you're into these type of games, extreme sports games, and you want to see what these older style games are actually like, by all means feel free to give it a go and see what you think of it for yourself.
250.
So that's it now for this video of 2 Extreme, and I hope you've gotten some idea of what the game's about, and I really do hope that you've actually enjoyed it and that you're willing to even experience it for yourself and give it a go and see what you think of it.
250.
So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, also subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to be updated whenever I release future videos. And also feel free to share the video to anyone else you think that might actually like these type of videos. And again, until next time, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.